The rain came down like sheets of broken glass, blurring the road and pounding on the roof of Jake's old truck. It was the kind of night where anything could go wrong, and something did. A deer leapt out from the forest, and Jake swerved. The wheels lost grip. The world spun. Metal screamed. Then stillness. Smoke rose from the crumpled hood. Jake's head lolled forward. Blood trickled down his forehead. His vision blurred, but through the shattered windshield he saw a figure, a woman, walking straight into the chaos like she didn't fear anything. She looked like a ghost. Dark, wet hair clung to her pale face. Her eyes, wide and haunting, locked onto his. She didn't speak. She just pulled the door open, unbuckled him, and dragged him out of the wreck. "Stay with me," she whispered, pressing his head against her chest. Her voice was soft, like music from a memory. Sirens screamed in the distance, and before he could ask her name, she was gone, like she'd never been there at all. 2 weeks passed. Jake recovered quickly, though his mind kept returning to the woman who'd saved him. He told the police. Described her face. No one matched. No one came forward. The officers chalked it up to trauma or luck. But Jake remembered every detail. The scent of rain on her coat. The gentle touch. The sadness in her eyes. Then, one afternoon, while driving along the coast, he saw her again. She was waiting tables at a small seaside diner, the Driftwood Cafe. Her hair was now tied back in a loose braid. She wore a simple blue uniform and had a name tag that read Lena. Jake almost didn't believe it. But when she turned and smiled at a child, he knew. It was her. He walked in and sat by the window. She came over with a notepad and a polite smile. "Coffee?" she asked, voice calm but cautious. "You saved my life," Jake said softly. She froze. Her smile faltered for just a second. "I think you've got the wrong person." "I don't," Jake said. "You pulled me out of my truck. 2 weeks ago. Rainy night. Highway 47. She glanced around. The diner was quiet, just an old couple eating clam chowder in the corner. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said again, but her voice trembled. Jake didn't push. He just nodded. "Okay. Coffee sounds good." She brought it to him, careful not to make eye contact. Jake came back the next day. And the next. Sometimes he ordered pie. Sometimes just coffee. He always chose her section, always smiled, never asked again. He watched her from afar. How she helped an old man find his glasses. How she knelt beside a little girl who dropped her ice cream. How she went to the back alley and cried when she thought no one saw. After a week, she sat across from him during her break. "I don't want any trouble," she said. "You're not," Jake replied. "I just wanted to thank you. That's all." She looked at him for a long time. "You shouldn't be here. I can leave." "No," she whispered. "Just don't ask about me. Please." "Okay," Jake said. "What name should I use?" She looked down. "Lena. For now." They started talking over coffee. She was always careful, never said too much. But she laughed at his jokes and asked about his work, carpentry mostly, and a bit of boat repair for tourists. She told him she loved the ocean but never swam, that she read mystery novels, that she liked the smell of cinnamon but hated the taste. "I know it's weird," she'd say, and he'd grin. Weird is good. Jake didn't press for her past. He watched her build invisible walls around herself and didn't try to climb them. He just stood nearby, hoping one day she'd let him in. One windy afternoon, they walked along the shore after her shift. The sky was gray and low, and gulls screamed above. "You don't ask anything," she said, hugging her coat tighter. "Why?" "Because I want you to stay," Jake said. "And asking might scare you off." She looked at him with something unreadable in her eyes. "People don't stay." "I do." She smiled for real then. You're too kind. He shrugged. You called me kind. That's a first. Her laughter was soft and rare, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Days turned into weeks. Jake stopped thinking of her as a stranger. Lena became part of his life, her presence quiet but strong. They'd cook dinner at his place, sit in silence watching the waves from his porch. No labels. No promises. But one night, as the wind howled and rain drummed the roof, he reached for her hand. I don't know who you really are, he said. But when you're here, I feel like I do. She hesitated. I'm not who you think I am, Jake. I don't care. She stared at him. Don't fall for me. Please. I already have. She pulled her hand away, stood up, and left without a word. Jake didn't see her for 3 days. On the 4th night, she knocked on his door. Her eyes were red. She held a small box in her hand and handed it to him. Inside were a few photographs, blurry, half-torn. A woman with shorter hair. A man whose face was scratched out. A child's bracelet. A train ticket. That's all I have left of my old life, she said. You still want me? He looked at her, really looked. Yes. She kissed him then, slow, aching, afraid. It was the kind of kiss that said goodbye and hello in the same breath. They started something new. Not perfect. Not safe. But real. She'd stay over some nights, curled against him under thick blankets. She'd cry in her sleep, and he'd hold her. She'd wake up and apologize, and he'd tell her to stop. I don't need your past, he whispered once. I just want your now. She said nothing, but her eyes softened. One night, they danced in the kitchen to a scratchy jazz record. She wore his shirt, and he spun her in his arms. Why me? She asked. I don't know, Jake said. But when you saved me, it felt like you gave me a second life. Maybe I'm supposed to spend it helping you find yours. She looked down. You're too good, she whispered. No, he said. I'm just the one who got lucky enough to find you. But behind her smile, shadows remained. Jake saw it when she flinched at loud noises, when she froze at the sight of a black SUV driving by, when she stared at her phone like it was poison. He didn't ask. He waited. Until one night she sat beside him on the porch, looked at the stars, and whispered, My name's not Lena. He turned to her, heart still. I figured. She met his eyes. There's so much you don't know. Tell me when you're ready. She nodded. Soon. And for the first time, her smile didn't look borrowed. It looked like it belonged to her. Jake didn't know what storm waited beyond the horizon. But for now, under the stars and beside the girl with no past, he felt something close to forever. And she, for once, didn't run. The ocean wind blew salt into Jake's hair as he sat on the deck of his boat, sanding a worn plank. Seagulls cried above, and the late afternoon sun turned the sea into gold. He didn't hear her approach. Busy? Lena asked softly. He turned, startled, then smiled. Always got time for you. She stepped closer. You said you were working today. I was, he said. But the tide's better when you're here. She rolled her eyes, but a blush colored her cheeks. That's a terrible line. Worked, didn't it? She leaned against the railing, her fingers brushing the salt-stained wood. Jake watched her quietly, heart full and heavy. He couldn't hold it in anymore. I think I love you. Lena froze. He wasn't sure if the waves were louder than the silence, or if his heart was just pounding too hard. I know you don't want questions, he added. I know you're hiding something. But I don't care. I want you anyway. She turned to him slowly. Her eyes were wide, scared, and shining. You don't even know who I am, she whispered. I know enough. She stared at him for a long time. Then, softly, carefully, she reached up and touched his cheek. I'm not good at this, she said. I've built a life out of lies. And I don't deserve someone like you. You don't get to decide what I deserve, Jake said. Lena's lip trembled. Say it again. He stepped closer, his hand cupping hers. I love you. She smiled, fragile but real. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, she said. But for now, I'm yours. They didn't tell anyone. Their love was a secret kept between crashing waves and quiet nights. They met after her shifts, walked along the beach barefoot, waves kissing their ankles. He showed her the stars. She showed him the songs she used to sing as a child. They spoke in whispers, like louder voices might break what they had. They kissed under the lighthouse, danced to silence in his living room, made love on the deck of his boat, wrapped in blankets with only the moon watching. She called him forever. It started as a joke. One night, after he promised to keep her safe no matter what, she had said, "Don't make promises like that forever." He asked why she called him that. "Because you believe in forever and I don't," she said. "But I want to with you." And so it stuck. She brought little things into his home, a scarf, a book, her laughter. Her presence filled the quiet corners of his life. Jake didn't care about the secrets she kept, as long as she came back to him every night. But the shadows returned before long. It started small. A man in a gray coat showed up at the cafe, asking for directions. But he wasn't lost. He stared at Lena too long. Asked the waitress about a quiet girl with long dark hair. Lena didn't work the rest of that day. Jake asked her about it. She said it was nothing. Then another man, this one younger with a camera tucked into his jacket, came asking around town. Said he was doing a documentary on missing women. But he only ever showed one picture. Blurry. Cropped. But Jake saw it. It was Lena. Or whoever she used to be. Jake's stomach turned cold. He didn't confront her right away. He wanted to believe in her. In them. But late one night, while she showered, he looked through her bag. He hated himself for it. Inside was a phone, cheap, prepaid, always off. A folded photo of a man in a suit. Her ID, but it had a different name. Not Lena. Not even Eva, the name she whispered once in her sleep. It read, Mara Ellis. Jake sat at the table with his head in his hands. Who was she really? And what had she done? She came out of the shower wearing his shirt, drying her hair with a towel. She froze when she saw the table. The ID. The photo. The phone. Jake looked up. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she sat across from him, water dripping from her hair. "You weren't supposed to find that. Is that your real name?" She nodded. "And the man in the photo?" Her eyes darkened. "Someone I wish I never met." He leaned forward. "Are you running from him?" "I'm running from what he turned me into." She stood and walked to the window. The night pressed against the glass. "I was someone else before. I made mistakes. Trusted the wrong people. Now, I'm trying to start over. You weren't part of the plan, Jake." He walked over to her. "I don't care what name you used. I care about who you are when you're with me." She turned to him, eyes wet. "You don't understand. They're looking for me." "Who?" "Cops." She hesitated. "Worse." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let me help you." She shook her head. "No. The more you know, the more danger you're in." "I'm already in," Jake said. "All the way." The next day, Jake saw another man in town. Clean-cut, earpiece, too polished for a place like this. He stood outside the cafe, pretending to check his phone, but his eyes followed Lena every time she moved. Jake's hands curled into fists. He walked over. "You lost." The man smiled. "Nope. Just waiting for someone." "Don't wait here. Is it a crime to stand on a sidewalk now? Jake stared at him. You're not local. Neither is she. Jake's blood ran cold. Before he could respond, the man walked off, slow, confident. Jake turned around and saw Lena standing behind the counter, watching. She had seen everything. That night, she didn't come home. He waited. Called. No answer. Drove by the cafe. It was closed. Her tiny apartment? Empty. Lights off. Jake's heart pounded as he stared into the night. He drove to the cliffside, where they once watched stars and kissed like they were alone in the universe. She wasn't there. He drove to the harbor. Nothing. He went home, poured a drink, and sat by the window, staring into the dark. Midnight passed. Then 1. Then 2. 2:43 a.m., a soft knock. He opened the door. She stood there, barefoot, soaked, eyes wide with fear. I shouldn't have come, she whispered. You're here? That's all I need. She collapsed into his arms. They sat by the fire, wrapped in blankets. I don't know how much longer I can do this, she said. Lying. Hiding. Looking over my shoulder. Jake pulled her closer. Then stop running. I can't. You can. Her lips trembled. What if I lose you? You already called me forever, he said. I'm not going anywhere. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. But what if I disappear? He held her tighter. Then I'll find you. As dawn crept in, he realized something had changed. The fear wasn't just hers anymore. It lived in him too now. A shadow had slipped into their story, quiet but sharp. He wasn't sure what she was hiding. A past lover? A crime? A secret with a price? But one thing was clear. Someone was looking for her. And whatever she had left behind wasn't done with her yet. Outside, the wind rose. Inside, Jake kissed her forehead. And even though her eyes were lying, he still believed her heart. For now. The fog rolled in thick that morning, curling through the coastal town like something alive. Jake stood across the street from the Driftwood Cafe, pretending to sip coffee from a paper cup. But his eyes were on the man with the silver wristwatch. The guy had been sitting on the bench outside the post office for over an hour, not even pretending to blend in. Same polished shoes as the one last week. Same expensive haircut. This one carried a leather satchel and wore mirrored sunglasses. At 7:30 a.m. Jake waited. Watched. Followed. When the man finally stood and walked off, Jake trailed him at a distance through the foggy alleys and quiet sidewalks until they reached the edge of town. The man ducked into a local print shop. Jake leaned against the wall outside, heart pounding, listening. Inside, the man spoke fast. Quiet. Jake could barely catch anything, but one word cut through. Eva. His blood turned cold. He was back out a minute later, flipping through some documents. Jake stepped forward, blocking the path. Who are you? The man blinked, caught off guard, then smirked. I could ask the same. You've been hanging around the cafe. Watching her. You must be Jake. Jake's fists clenched. You're looking for her. I'm trying to help her. Jake didn't believe him. You're lying. The man sighed, pulled out a card, and handed it over. Nathan Crowley, private investigator. Los Angeles. I'm not with the police. I was hired to find Eva Monroe. Jake froze. She doesn't go by that name anymore, the man added. I know, Jake said quietly. Why are you looking for her? Nathan tucked his sunglasses into his pocket. Her past finally caught up. Jake didn't go home. He needed time to think. To breathe. Eva. Her real name was Eva. She had never told him, not even after all the nights they'd shared, all the promises whispered under blankets and stars. It was past midnight when he walked into the house. The lights were off, but she was there, curled on the couch, hugging a pillow to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her together. He didn't say anything at first. She looked up, eyes wide. "You followed him." Jake nodded. "I had to." She sat up slowly. "So you know." He nodded again. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She just whispered, "I'm sorry." Jake walked over and sat beside her. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of all the things they hadn't said. "I need to tell you everything," she said. "No more lies." Jake took her hand. "Tell me." "My name is Eva Monroe," she began, voice shaking. "I used to live in San Francisco. I was engaged to a man named Marcus Vance, founder of Vance Tech. He was rich, powerful, charming on the surface." Jake listened without a word. Behind closed doors, he was controlling. Angry. I wasn't allowed to see my friends. He'd read my texts, track my phone. He said he loved me so much he couldn't risk losing me. And for a while, I believed him. Tears welled in her eyes. One night, he hit me. I told him I was leaving. He smiled and said I'd never make it out. Jake's hands curled into fists. I waited until he passed out. I packed a bag, took the spare keys, and ran. I thought I was free. She paused. Her breath caught. But 2 days later, the police came. Marcus said I broke into his house. Said I tried to kill him with poison. That I'd been unstable. Violent. Jake's eyes widened. What? He faked everything. The bruises. The threats. Even emails he claimed I sent. Her voice broke. I was charged with attempted murder. I didn't stand a chance. He had power. Money. Lawyers. I had nothing. She wiped her eyes roughly. Before the trial began, I ran. I disappeared. Burned everything. Changed my name. I've been hiding ever since. Always looking over my shoulder. Jake's voice was soft but firm. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to look at me like that. He shook his head. I'm not afraid of your past. You should be, she whispered. People who get too close to me end up hurt. He reached out, gently touched her cheek. I don't care who you were, he said. I love who you are. Her eyes widened. Jake. He leaned forward and kissed her, slow, deep, full of everything words couldn't say. After that night, something shifted. Their love deepened, no longer just soft touches and stolen kisses. Became something fierce, protective, sacred. She opened herself to him fully, sharing not just her fears but her dreams. He built her a hidden storage spot on his boat for her belongings. Bought her a burner phone and kept it safe. Took her out to secret coves at sunset where no one could find them. He became her anchor. She became his storm. One evening, as the sun dipped into the sea and painted the sky orange and red, they lay on the deck wrapped in a blanket. Her head on his chest. His fingers stroking her hair. You know I'd give up everything for you, she whispered. I don't want you to, he said. I want you to live. Then promise me something. Anything. If they ever find me, don't run. He turned to her. I won't. Not without you. Her lips found his, slow and sure. And for a moment the past vanished. But danger still crept in. Jake noticed more unfamiliar cars in town. A man with a hidden camera at the farmer's market. Cafe owner mentioned someone asking questions again. He didn't tell her. He didn't want her afraid. But deep down, he knew time was running out. One night, she stood at the window of his bedroom, wrapped in a towel, watching the moonlit sea. Do you believe in fate? She asked. Jake slid out of bed and came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. I believe fate brought you to me. She leaned into him. What if it was just running that brought me here? Then I thank the road that let you run. She turned in his arms. I still have nightmares. Of the trial. Of Marcus. Of being trapped again. I'll never let that happen, he said. You can't promise that. I already did. She rested her forehead against his. I love you, Jake. It was the first time she'd said it. His heart soared. I love you, Eva. She smiled through tears. You still call me that, she whispered. Like I'm real again. You are. That night they made love like it was the last time. Not from fear, but from truth. From the understanding that their love was no longer a secret, no longer a hiding place. It was a fight. A vow. Jake didn't care what the world thought she had done. He had seen her pain. Her strength. Her kindness. He had seen the girl who cried behind the cafe, who saved a man from a wreck without a second thought, who danced barefoot in the kitchen and called him forever. And he had chosen her. No matter what the truth held. The next morning, Jake woke to an empty bed. He called her name. No answer. Panic gripped his chest. He rushed to the porch, and there she was, watching the sea, holding a folded note in her hands. She turned to him slowly. They found me. The wind howled outside Jake's boathouse, slamming branches against the walls like fists in a fight. Inside, the air was thick with tension. She said they found her, Jake told Nathan Crowley over the phone, pacing. How? Private investigator was silent for a second, then answered in a low voice. Because Damian Cole isn't just powerful. He's paranoid. Obsessed. He's been using every tool money can buy. Facial recognition, hacked traffic cameras, flagged purchases. If she so much as walks into a pharmacy, he'll know. Jake stopped in his tracks. He's still tracking her? He never stopped. Jake's stomach twisted. I thought she was safe here. Crowley sighed. There's no such thing as safe when Damian wants someone found. When Jake returned to the bedroom, Eva was curled under the blanket, clutching the note she had found on the dock. It was short, cold, and terrifying. I always find what's mine. D. She looked up when she saw him. I have to leave, she said softly. Tonight. No, Jake replied. We're not running anymore. Eva sat up, shaking her head. You don't understand. He's not just a man. He's a system. He knows everything. I know who he is, Jake interrupted. I made a few calls. She blinked. Jake sat beside her. I have a friend in Seattle, works in cybersecurity. I told him about Damian. Without names. Just scenarios. He said the way Damian tracks people, even the FBI would be impressed. Eva laughed bitterly. Yeah, that sounds about right. But he also said Damian's not a god. He's human, which means he makes mistakes. And people like him don't expect the people they hurt to fight back. Eva stared at him, tears rising. I'm tired of hiding, Jake said. You don't have to run anymore. Then what do? We disappear, Jake said. But on our terms. Somewhere no cell towers reach. No roads. No signals. Where? My uncle's cabin. Oregon. It's in the woods near Mount Hood. It's been abandoned since he passed, but I've still got the keys. Eva hesitated. He held out his hand. Come with me. They left just before sunrise. No credit cards. No phones. No GPS. They drove Jake's old truck up the coast, then east into the mountains. Hours passed, and the world fell away behind them. Strip malls, billboards, city lights, until only trees remained. Pine. Cedar. Mist. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was sinking behind the trees. Place was rough but sturdy. A wooden structure tucked between hills and forest, surrounded by wild silence. Ivy climbed the old fence. The air smelled like moss and smoke. Eva stepped out of the truck, wrapped in Jake's jacket, and took a long breath. "No cameras here," she whispered. "No one at all," Jake said. They lit a fire that night and unpacked what little they had. No electricity. No internet. Only a wood stove, lanterns, and a hand-crank radio. Jake fixed the roof leaks. Eva cleaned the fireplace. They made dinner over a crackling flame, beans, canned stew, and melted chocolate bars for dessert. It wasn't much, but it felt like peace. That night, wrapped in blankets on the cabin floor, Eva whispered into the dark. "I forgot what silence feels like." Jake pulled her close. "It's not silence. It's safety." The days passed slowly, wrapped in green. Mornings started with coffee brewed over fire, and Eva's laughter when Jake tried to fish and fell into the river. They hiked trails through thick woods, found deer prints in the snow, and built a stack of rocks by the stream like a secret monument to their survival. Afternoons were filled with stories. Jake taught her how to split wood. Eva taught him how to cook something edible from a single potato and spice. Nights were their favorite. Under the open sky, wrapped in wool blankets, they lay on the cabin roof and watched the stars blink into life. One night, she turned to him with a shy smile. "Marry me." Jake blinked. "What?" "I'm serious. Not for real. But just for now. Here. Let's pretend this is our wedding night." He grinned. "All right. You start." She took a deep breath. "I, Eva Monroe, promise to never wake you up before sunrise unless there's coffee. I promise to laugh at your bad jokes, cry during sad movies, and love you even when you forget to wash your socks." Jake laughed, eyes glistening. Then he held her hands and said, "I, Jake Rivers, promise to fight for you when you're tired, carry you when you're scared, and love you like it's the first time every day for the rest of our lives." They kissed, slow and sacred, beneath the stars. The forest became their world. Their war faded into dreams. For the first time, Eva let herself imagine a future. Kids with Jake's eyes and her stubbornness, a home with a porch swing, a dog named Whiskey. They even carved their initials into a tree near the river. E+J = forever. It wasn't much, but it was real. And it was theirs. But war never ends just because you stop fighting. One afternoon, Jake returned from hunting with a limp in his step. Eva ran to him. "What happened?" He showed her a metal wire, thin, sharp, coiled like a trap. It was under the moss. Fresh. Her face went pale. "Someone's close." Jake nodded. They didn't speak for a moment. Then Eva whispered, "We have to go." Jake shook his head. "Not yet. We'll lay low. Set watches. Make plans." But Eva knew. Their dream was ending. That night, she curled into him tighter than ever. "I don't want to go back," she whispered. "You won't," Jake said. "We'll find another way. Do you ever think about what we'd be if we met before all this?" He kissed her hair. "I think about what we are now." "And what's that?" "Survivors." She fell asleep before him. Jake stayed awake, watching the fire die, listening to the woods. He wasn't afraid of Damien anymore. He was angry. Because this woman, his woman, deserved peace, love, freedom. And if Damien wanted to bring war, he'd get one. On Jake's terms. The next morning, Eva found a note on the table. "Stay here. Lock the door. I'll be back. Jay." Her heart skipped. Not fear. Something worse. Hope cracking. 'Cause she knew Jake. And he never left without a plan. The forest was too quiet. Eva stood on the porch of the cabin, wrapped in Jake's flannel shirt, the air heavy around her like a held breath. She hadn't seen him since morning. His note still sat on the table inside. "Stay here. Lock the door. I'll be back. Jay." He was trying to protect her. Again. She hated that. because she already knew there were some things you couldn't be protected from. A bird shrieked in the trees. The wind shifted. And then footsteps. Not Jake's. Lighter. Softer. Cautious. Eva spun, heart hammering. A shadow moved between the trees. She stepped back toward the cabin door. Then she heard a voice. Eva. She froze. No. Couldn't be. Eva, it's me. It's Sarah. The trees parted. And there, stepping out into the open clearing, was a woman Eva hadn't seen in over 2 years. Her sister. Sarah looked thinner than she remembered. Paler. Her blonde hair was tied in a messy braid, her hands trembling at her sides. Eva's throat closed. Sarah. Sarah rushed forward, tears spilling. Oh my God. I thought you were dead, she cried. Eva, I've been looking everywhere. Eva couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then, finally, she broke. Rushed into Sarah's arms, clutching her tight like she might vanish. They sank to the ground together. I missed you so much, Eva whispered. Sarah pulled back, cupping her face. I'm here now. You're not alone anymore. Eva laughed through tears. How did you find me? Sarah hesitated, looked away. Damien, she said softly. The name hit like a slap. Eva's body tensed. She stood. You talked to him? Sarah nodded. He came to the house a few months ago. He looked different. Not angry. Just tired. Eva shook her head. He's manipulating you. He said he was sorry, Eva. Eva barked a laugh. No. Damien Cole doesn't say sorry. I didn't believe him either, Sarah said, stepping closer. But he told me everything. The emails. Cameras. Poison. He admitted it all. Eva's breath caught. He admitted it? Sarah nodded. He said he lost his mind after you left. That he needed to control everything. But he's not the same man now. He just wants peace. Peace, Eva whispered. He wants to meet you. Just once. To apologize. To give you your life back. Eva stared at her sister. Her heart roared with confusion. I don't trust him. I don't either, Sarah said. But if it's true, you could stop running. You could be free. Jake returned just after sunset. He spotted Eva and Sarah on the porch and froze. Eva ran to him, arms around his chest. Jake, she whispered, this is my sister. Jake's eyes locked on Sarah. He didn't move. Then he pulled Eva aside. In private. Inside, Jake's face was stone. You can't believe this. She's my sister, Jake. I don't care if she's your twin. If she showed up here, that means Damien knows exactly where we are. Eva looked down. He already knew. Jake's voice rose. Then we have to go. Now. Eva grabbed his hand. He wants to talk. Just once. To make peace. Jake yanked away. That's not peace. That's bait. She stepped back, pain blooming across her face. I have to go. No. She touched his cheek, eyes glassy. If I don't end this, you'll never be safe. I don't care about me. I do, she whispered. I love you. That's why I have to face him. They stood in silence. Jake's chest rose and fell like a storm. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small silver locket and pressed it into her hand. What is this? My mother's, he said. She gave it to me before she died. She said to give it to the woman I'd fight for. Eva opened it. Inside was a tiny photo of Jake as a boy and a folded piece of paper that read, Real love is fearless. Her tears broke loose. I don't want to lose you, Jake whispered. You already found me, she said. That's what matters. She kissed him then, soft and slow and full of everything they didn't know how to say. Then she stepped back. "I love you, Jake Rivers. You are the only real thing in my whole life," she added. And then she turned and walked into the trees with her sister. Truck was waiting just off the trail. Dark, sleek, out of place in the wild woods. Sarah climbed in. Eva followed, her fingers shaking as she clutched the locket to her chest. She looked back once. Cabin sat in shadow. And Jake stood at the edge of the clearing, hands clenched, watching her go. An hour later, they reached a mountain town. Small. Quiet. Sarah led her into a brick inn with stained windows and a flickering porch light. "Room 206, Sarah whispered. "He's already there." Eva took a breath, her heart thundering. Then she walked up the stairs alone. The hallway stretched long and silent. She paused outside the door. Knocked once. It opened slowly. And there he was. Damian Cole. He looked older. Hair grayer. Eyes duller. The expensive suit couldn't hide the weight of time. "Eva," he said softly. She stepped inside, arms folded. "No bodyguards?" "No need." He sat at the edge of the bed, motioned for her to sit. She didn't. "You said you wanted to apologize," she said. He nodded. "I do." For the next 10 minutes, Damian talked. About his guilt. His grief. How he lost everything after she left. His sanity, his reputation. How he was trying to rebuild his life. "I can't change what I did," he said. "But I can give you closure." Eva stared at him. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. 'Cause something was wrong. The room was too perfect. Too still. Her gut twisted. "You're lying," she whispered. Damian's eyes flickered. "What?" "You're not sorry. You're staging a show." He stood. "Eva, you sent my sister," she said. But she looked nervous. Kept looking away. "She's scared of you." "Eva, where is she?" she demanded. "Where's Sarah?" Damian smiled, slow and thin. "She already went home." Eva took a step back. And that's when she saw it, the glint of a hidden camera in the corner of the room. "You're recording this." "Of course," Damian said calmly. "I needed proof. That you came willingly. That we spoke." "Why?" "So when you disappear again, no one questions me." Eva turned and ran. Down the hallway. Through the stairwell. Out into the street. She didn't have a phone. No cash. No map. But she had one thing. Jake's locket. And the truth. Back at the cabin, Jake wasn't sleeping. He stood on the porch, the fire crackling behind him, staring into the woods like he could will her back. Then he saw headlights. He grabbed the rifle. But it wasn't a threat. It was her. Running. Hair wild, coat torn, eyes wide. He dropped the gun and ran. They collided in the middle of the clearing. She sobbed into his chest. "I was wrong," she choked. "He hasn't changed." Jake held her like a lifeline. "I've got you," he whispered. "I've always got you." But as he held her, neither of them noticed the camera blinking in the trees. Watching. Waiting. 'Cause Damian Cole never let go of anything. Not even the woman who almost killed him. The locket felt warm against Eva's skin. She hadn't taken it off since she ran back into Jake's arms. Since Damian's trap. Since the lie her sister had been forced to help spin. She'd trusted the one person she shouldn't have. Now she only trusted Jake. They were back at the cabin, but peace no longer lived there. They knew Damian was closing in. Jake had seen it before, how men like Damian moved, quiet, methodical, merciless. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was hunting. Jake had a plan. He kept it quiet from Eva. Every night after she fell asleep, he slipped into the dark woods and climbed the ridge to the one place with a signal. From there, he sent evidence, photos, security camera footage, encrypted emails, everything he had collected since Eva's confession. He sent it to the FBI. Every time he hit send, he felt a small light inside him, hope flickering back to life. But he knew it wouldn't be enough. Not yet. Damien needed to make a mistake. And Jake needed to be there when he did. Came faster than he expected. One morning, he woke to find Eva gone. A single note sat on her pillow. I know he won't stop. I'm ending this. Trust me. I love you. E. His blood ran cold. He knew exactly what she was doing. She was walking into fire. Eva took the train south, using a fake ID Jake had once joked about making for just in case. She didn't laugh when he gave it to her. She wasn't laughing now. She'd agreed to meet Damien in the only place she could lure him into a mistake. His own kingdom. His penthouse in downtown Seattle. Where everything was under his control. And yet, he'd never expect she'd come willingly. The building hadn't changed. Black glass high as heaven. Private elevators. Cameras in every corner. Cage wrapped in luxury. Eva stepped out into the lobby, heart pounding. She expected security to stop her. None did. They were expecting her. A woman in a gray suit met her at the elevator and wordlessly scanned a keycard. Eva's breath shook. She thought of Jake. She thought of that first rainy night. And she walked in. Jake was already in the city. He'd followed her from a distance, watching from alleys, slipping through crowds like a shadow. He knew where Damien lived. He had friends watching the building. And he had already called the FBI again, voice hard as stone. I have the evidence, he said. The woman he's hunting is with him right now. You have less than an hour. The agent on the line replied, We're moving. Don't do anything reckless. Jake hung up, then ran toward the storm. Eva stepped into Damien's penthouse and froze. It was silent, sterile, like a museum of wealth. Then he appeared, standing at the far window, hands behind his back, watching the city bleed into sunset. Eva, he said without turning. You came back. I came to finish this. He smiled and turned. His face looked softer in the golden light. But his eyes were sharp as razors. Finish what? He asked. You already know. Damien stepped forward, hands raised like a man of peace. I didn't want it to end this way, he said. She blinked. Then end it. You really think you'll leave here? He asked. She didn't flinch. Yes. He reached into his coat. And everything exploded. Jake kicked down the door, gun in hand. Eva, get down. She ducked behind the couch just as Damien pulled a pistol from his jacket and fired. Glass shattered. A bullet tore across Jake's shoulder, but he kept moving. He tackled Damien, crashing them both into a table. They fought hard, two men with fire in their veins and something to protect. Damien slammed Jake into a wall, punched him twice in the ribs. You think you can take what's mine? He growled. Jake spat blood. She was never yours. Then he drove his fist into Damien's jaw. Eva grabbed the fallen pistol. But she froze. 'Cause Damien turned. And now the gun was in his hand. Eva! Jake shouted. The shot rang out. Jake fell. Blood spread across his shirt like a rose in bloom. Eva screamed, catching him as he collapsed into her arms. No, 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 Jake, look at me, she cried. His eyes fluttered. His breath was ragged. Behind them, red and blue lights flared through the shattered glass. The FBI stormed the penthouse, guns raised, orders shouted. Damien tried to run. He didn't make it 10 steps before he was tackled, cuffed, and dragged to the floor. But Eva didn't see it. She only saw Jake, her forever, bleeding in her lap. "Stay with me," she whispered, pressing her hand to the wound. "You promised me. You don't break promises." His lips moved. She leaned close. "I love you," he whispered. "Always. Don't you leave me," she sobbed. "Not now. Not after everything. Please, Jake. Please. Stay with me." He tried to smile. "Real love is fearless," he mouthed. Then his eyes closed, and everything went quiet. The hospital was a blur of sirens and shouting. They said he had minutes, maybe seconds. Eva didn't let go of his hand the entire time. She prayed in whispers. To every god, every star, every force that had ever brought them together. And somehow someone listened. Jake woke up 2 days later. Pale, weak, but alive. Eva was sleeping beside him, curled in the chair, the locket still around her neck. He smiled. "You stayed," he whispered. Her eyes snapped open. Tears spilled again. "I'm never leaving you again." Damien was charged with conspiracy, assault, and attempted murder. The evidence Jake collected broke the case wide open. Eva's name was cleared. Her life was finally her own. And Jake? He was her forever. 6 months later, in a quiet field near the ocean, Eva stood barefoot in a white dress. Jake wore a gray suit and a smile that could melt winter. They said real vows this time. No pretending. Just truth. And when she slipped the ring onto his finger, she whispered the only words that ever truly mattered. "You are the only real thing in my whole life." The sound of waves was the first thing Jake heard. Not machines. Not voices. Not chaos. Just the sea. And her. Eva sat beside him, curled in the window seat, knees drawn to her chest. Her hair had grown longer. Her skin was sun-kissed, softer. But her eyes, they held the same storm he had always loved. He blinked slowly. She turned, sensing him. And when she saw his eyes open, she smiled like the sun rising over a long, dark world. "Hey, you," she whispered. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She reached for a glass of water and lifted it gently to his lips. His fingers brushed hers. He held them longer than necessary. She didn't pull away. "Where?" he croaked. "A hospital by the sea," she said softly. "You've been here almost a month." "A month?" He tried to sit up. Pain flared in his side. "Don't," she said, pressing a gentle hand to his chest. "The bullet missed your heart by an inch. You're lucky to be alive." He looked at her. "I knew I would be. You're here." Eva smiled again, but this time her eyes filled. "I never left," she whispered. "Not for a second." Over the next few days, Jake healed slowly. The nurses called him the miracle man. Eva never left his side. She brought books, played music, fed him soup like a mother bird, and made bad jokes about sponge baths and hospital gowns. But sometimes, when he dozed, she just sat beside him in silence, tracing the lines on his palm like a map she didn't want to forget. On the 6th day, Jake finally asked the question that had been burning in his chest. "What happened to Damien?" Eva's smile faded. "Gone. Dead." "No. Worse. Powerless." Damien Cole's empire collapsed the moment the FBI stormed his penthouse. Dozens of victims came forward. Partners turned on him. Shareholders pulled out. The media feasted on the scandal, calling it the Mask of Silicon. In 2 weeks, Damien's face went from magazine covers to mugshots. And Eva? Eva Monroe was cleared of all charges. No longer the fugitive. No longer the liar. No longer the woman who ran. She'd faced her monster. And won. One night, when the moon was full and silver over the waves, Eva stood at the edge of the hospital balcony in a long blue dress. Jake watched her from behind, the breeze shifting her hair. He stepped beside her. "Feeling dramatic?" he asked gently. She laughed. "Always." She turned to him, hands tucked into her sleeves. "I need to tell you something," she said. Jake raised a brow. "Another fake identity?" She smirked. "No. The opposite." He waited. My full name isn't just Eva Monroe anymore." He blinked. "No." She took his hand. "It's Eva Monroe Rivera." He stared at her. "Rivera?" She nodded. "I added it after you." A pause. A heartbeat. "Why?" Her voice softened. "Because I want to spend the rest of my life earning the name you gave me, forever." Jake didn't speak. He didn't need to. He kissed her instead. Deep. Long, full of the 1,000 things they'd survived. And the million more they'd still face. When they pulled apart, the moonlight painted her face in silver. "This time," she whispered, "no secrets. No running. Just us." "Just us," he echoed. They married by the sea. Not with hundreds of guests. Not with fanfare. Just a few friends, the sound of waves, and two people who had once been strangers on a highway in the rain. He wore white. She wore hope. And when they kissed, it wasn't just a promise. It was a vow that had already been lived, broken, tested, and finally made whole. After the wedding, they danced barefoot in the sand under the same moon where they once spoke fake vows with trembling hearts. Only this time, the words were real. And the love was stronger than anything fate had thrown at them. 'Cause she had called him forever. But now he was hers for good. And she had finally earned the name she never thought she deserved. Eva Monroe Rivera. The girl with no past. Now the woman with everything. The end.